in Kenya, we've seen a succession of the successful. The more successful you are, once you get your car loan, your house loan, once you're paying a mortgage, you've bought an iPhone, an iPad, or you're aspiring to, the more you check out of the siyasa. And therefore, let me ask a question. How many here participated in the party nominations that we had in the primaries? Three people. I think we should clap for these three. Even I didn't. I'm one of those I'm preaching here, but it was a huge lesson to us. And in Nairobi, the lesson was taught to us as middle class, best of all, by Baba Yao, Mr. Waitito, where the middle class went, ooh, you know, what's this? But because we didn't line up, we were all in our offices working to pay that mortgage, to pay that car loan. What happens in Kenya, and has happened since the reintroduction of multi-party politics, and I think that, you know, in a sense, it's a democratizing thing. It is the poor, the unemployed, who choose our candidates for us. 40% of the election is finished at the nomination stage. If you are the TNA candidate for county rep in Gatundu South, I think you don't have to campaign anymore. If you're the ODM candidate that has been nominated for Karachuonyo ward, I don't think you have to, no more electioneering. You can now save your money, no more spending of money. So 40% of the election has already been decided nomination stage. We, middle class, now have to choose from those who have been chosen for us by the poor. There is something humorous. I think God has a sense of humor in presenting us with those choices. And we saw it with the case of Baba Yao here in Nairobi, that woke up the middle class in a way that I think is very special. Between 2003 and 2006, the number of primary school children doubled. Within 3 months of the NARC government being elected, 1.6 million kids who had never been to primary school were in primary school. We've seen a continuous boom in the construction sector, in the real estate sector. So major development. So I said, well, then what's happening in Kenya? Clearly, you know, there's major capital formation, the economy is doing well, we're on the verge of becoming what we should be, which is the real engine of economic growth on this side of the continent of Africa, and really an African leader in terms of development as a country. But I often say Kenya gets its hardware right, but its software wrong. So we are like Ali Khan's brand new Apple computer with Windows 95 on it, or even MS-DOS. And what we had in 2008 was a software failure. You know that blue screen that comes, what they call the blue screen of death. When that blue screen comes on your PC, you know that it's on its last legs. And that's what happened in 2008. And the software issues are the issues that we don't always talk about in open forums. Tribalism, land, other issues that are the real driving forces in terms of the choices that we make politically as Kenyans. The Constitution is about this software, fixing this software, changing the entire governance system to make it more open, liberal, and accountable. And we're in that process now. It's got resistance, but I think we're getting there. There are challenges, important choices that we have to make and have made already that we're going to have to live with. I was told this story by a friend from upcountry some months ago. And it was with regard to the ICC. One of the unfortunate things that has happened is that this has become the ICC election. In 1990s, we had elections about the reintroduction of multi-party politics. There were big issues like a new constitution. This time, unfortunately, it's about a criminal judicial process. And that is unfortunate. But we chose it. And as a friend who was giving me a metaphor for that, of a gentleman. You know, up country, when Western medicine arrived, you didn't feel you had been treated until you had a sindano. You go to the doctor, you're not feeling well, the doctor treats you, says, okay, chukua hii pembe, take these 3 pills, 1 pill 3 times a day. And you say, where's the injection? What injection? And so the doctor would, so there was once this man, I wouldn't say from where, who had a problem with his neck. And he walked several kilometers with his neck like this to the local dispensary. He got there, and he said, Daktari, niko na tatabu na hii shingo. And the doctor said, okay, he checked him out, says, Sugua, rub this ointment 3 times a day, take these 3 pills, 1 in the morning, 1 at lunchtime, and 1 in the evening. And he said, wapi sindano? Nataka sindano. So the doctor said, okay, maybe it's sugar water or something, I don't know what they use. So he pulled out an injection. And they said, okay, pull on your trousers. I said, weka hapa. Weka hapa. And that's what us Kenyans did with ICC. We said, don't be vague, let's go to The Hague. Now we are there. And it pains. It's like that sindano stuck in the neck, and it's still there. And it's raised a host of political contradictions that are playing out in front of us right now. I spent 1 year, 3 months traveling around the country, living amongst ordinary Kenyans, and amongst every community and every part of the country where I visited. I asked this question: what do you think about the ICC as being the instrument that we should use to deal with what happened with the post-election violence? And Kenyans were unequivocal. All tribes, all communities, all regions, ICC. Twende Hague. Ata tupeleke bunge yote Hague. That was Eastern Province, so very, very clear on that. So we Kenyans made a choice. We then, with passing the new constitution, which we did overwhelmingly, domesticated the Rome Statute into our laws. Now, we are faced with an election where Kenya's, the big choice, and I think the choice that we all have to make and have to be part of, is that Kenya has to cooperate with this process. I don't want to use the word, but we've heard the word used in the last week, I think by the Assistant Secretary of State in the US, Mr. Carson. Otherwise, there will be consequences. Ironically, Kenya was one of the first countries to ratify the ICC, the Rome Statute. So we ran into that one as well. We ran into The Hague as well. Sasa inauma. The most important thing is that whatever choice we make must be based on, we must cooperate with ICC. These consequences that are being talked about, I think, will affect all of us. It doesn't matter what Kabila, what region you come from, they will affect all of us. I remember a friend in the Rift Valley when I was traveling there, who, after talking for several hours in the middle of the night, he's a farmer, and he said, you know, we have killed each other, we have abused each other, we have burnt each other's homes, we have done horrible things to each other as Kenyans along tribal lines, and somehow we're going to have to get beyond that. But facts imprison us, and the truth shall set us free. The truth is, we are all Kenyans, and we have nowhere else to go. That is true now more than ever before. It strikes me that the Portuguese government sent a minister to Angola last year seeking investment in the Portuguese stock exchange. 17% of the blue chip companies on the Portuguese stock exchange are owned by Angolan investment companies. Africa is the future. We are now reached a point where us as middle class have got nowhere to run anymore. Do you want a visa to Greece? Portugal, Spain, UK. The economies are having challenges. This is where it's happening. and it's us who have to consolidate it. And our moment is now. Our moment is now by getting out and voting. We, middle class, have 50% turnout. It's terrible for Nairobi. Terrible, you know. Our moment is now. Get out and vote and monitor that vote. And Kenya can then take off, and we don't have to think about whether we should be getting visas to South Sudan or Greece. I'll finish with a comment that was made that really touched me by a former African head of state who visited Nairobi last month. And we sat, a few of us, and this is a gentleman who managed to leave power untainted. There are not many of those former presidents around in Africa. The number is growing, but there are not that many. But this is a gentleman who managed to retire without being accused of corruption or killing or attacking, and generally being authoritarian with his opponents. And he looked at us and he said, listen, you know, we have always admired you Kenyans, because Kenya has been able to achieve what it has achieved with no great mineral resources. It is off the sweat of your brow, through your own hard work. Kenya has succeeded thus far because of Kenyans, and we admire that. So we are nervous when we see that people are talking about an election which could go wrong. Because if it can go wrong for Kenya, then eventually it's going to go wrong for all of us. If it can fail in Kenya, it will fail everywhere else. So we appeal to your sense of honor as Africans. Don't get it wrong. Because you get it wrong, then all of us will be afraid that it can happen to us. And I found that quite touching, and I feel that we Kenyans are up to the task. We have shown ourselves, you know, we are corrupt. We are tribalists, you know, let's admit it. We have our weaknesses, and they're legion. But at key moments, we have always risen to the challenge. We're resilient. We bounced back from the 2008 crisis reasonably well, even though many of the issues remain unresolved. But for me, the most touching, and I'll close with this, Ali Khan, and we can go into question and answer session. I remember the bomb blast in 1998 that was an attack on the US Embassy here in Nairobi. And I was at that site about 20 minutes after the bomb blast had happened. It was moving in that, of course, you know, you all know that the building that the American Embassy was a well-fortified building, so Ufundi Cooperative House next to it had really just collapsed. And it was like ants on a hill of Kenyans scrambling up to dig each other out of this building. And the GSU arrived with G3s, you know, and started pushing people back. And so we told them, hey, hold on, tuko na kazi hapa. And you know, they put the G3s on their backs, and they also started helping. A Red Cross van arrived next to, it's on Moi Avenue, and parked outside, I think it's the Consolidated Bank. And within minutes, you had a line of Kenyans willing to give blood that went around the entire block. And once that van said enough, people jumped into vehicles and went to give blood elsewhere. And it was Kenyans who did that rescue of that collapsed building. But what is more important, what tells me more about us, about that, than anything else, is the fact that afterwards, we didn't have a sectarian kind of problem. It didn't occur to us as Kenyans that, oh, now we've been attacked by Osama bin Laden, we've got to be careful about these Muslims, we've got to, you know, there was none of that. Kenyans remained Kenyans despite what had happened. And you know, and we know now that there were Kenyans involved in that attack, but we're resilient and strong in that kind of way. I think that resilience is going to be tested on March 4th, I think we're up to that challenge. I think it starts with all of us getting out and voting and making a choice for our future. We get this one right, it's not only for posterity and for ourselves, but for the whole of the African continent, which is on the verge of a major boom. Let's make it true, not only for us, but for our grandchildren. Thank you very much.